Okay, welcome back to Leaving the Lies and Speaking Your Truth. We're going to continue on with part 2 of our interview with Michael Cotter. Sorry about that interruption there, Michael. Continue on with what you were saying.
Yeah, so another thing that was a turnoff to me, even at the time, was their approach to people having other beliefs. And it was almost like they had this arrogant, cocky attitude of, if anybody has a belief that's different, they're just wrong, and we can't be wrong about our beliefs, and anybody who says anything different is either just deluded or a complete liar. And I don't think that approach helps anybody when we're talking about hot button issues, especially like religion or politics, because
Right.
it creates a lot of division, and
Right.
it doesn't help us find any real solutions to problems in philosophy or in politics or figuring out how the world works. That just doesn't help us. And
Right.
my overall concern, going back to the question of what traumatizes people, my overall concern is that this has the negative effect on other people in the group. Not
Right.
just their ability to think for themselves, but also their overall well-being. Because
Right.
if they have this, like, if they hugely emotionally invest in their religious beliefs, and then they come to find out that their beliefs were wrong, like, what's that going to do to them? It's going to bring a lot of regret, a lot of hurt feelings, a lot of
It causes, have you
self-doubt.
ever heard the term cognitive dissonance?
Yes.
Yeah, it causes a lot of cognitive dissonance. It's when you're there, and especially when you first leave, that can cause a lot of mental and emotional trauma to a person to try to work through and sort through all that and come to some conclusion at the end.
Definitely.
Michael,
So that was there.
Michael, do you have any positive memories from your experience?
Absolutely. So a lot of the positive experiences came from me interacting with the leader's kids. Very sweet, very kind. The daughter especially has a lot of good things to say, and she has a lot of wisdom for somebody her age. But I remember we would go to a restaurant after baptizing someone, and just hanging out together and chatting and having lunch or dinner or whatever meal we would have, and having that sense of connection with other people was something that drew me to the people in the group as people.
Yeah.
And just having that connection, wanted, like, it was a big reason for why I still wanted to be around them, even though I did have some concerns about some of the beliefs expressed in the group. I still valued them as people, and I still wanted to be around them. And the thing about leaving a cult is that a lot of people who leave still crave that connection. They still crave that
Absolutely.
that brother way.
The fellowship.
It's almost like being a family.
Yeah, we would say, I mean, that's very similar for us. It's that fellowship, and it's hard because it's not easily replaceable, because there's an amount of almost falseness to it that you know that the only way you could really truly get that back is to be in another similar type group, which you know you don't want to do. So it's very confusing. Was your past or any personal information ever used against you or used to manipulate you when you were part of the group?
That's a good question. I think there's a good possibility that it was. I remember early on in the group, I would have a lot of private conversations with my leader when we would just walk around the neighborhood and talk about life. And I told him a lot of personal things about my past. And a lot of it was a struggle with mental health as well, like certain areas of my life that I had struggled in. And I remember before I got kicked out the first time, I was having this sense of arrogance of being right and everybody else being wrong. And I even noticed this change in myself where if somebody came along with a different opinion on whatever topic, especially religious or political, that I would be I would be more fearful of having an actual exchange of ideas with them. Like, even though that is something I valued and I still value, I noticed that this change in me was me being more closed off to ideas that were different from mine at the time was very alarming, even for me. And I remember telling the leader one night, it was like 2 days before I got officially cut off from the group, I told the leader that I was feeling this strong sense of pride in myself. And even still to this day, the leader still holds that against me. Like, he uses that against me as a way to say that I was wrong.
Right.
The problem, though, is I think that this can all be uncovered with a simple question is, okay, I was having this sense of pride, but where was that pride coming from? Because it wasn't there before. Before I joined the group, I was more than happy to exchange ideas with people. But after I get in the group, I become more closed off to people with different ideas. And the only way I can explain this strong sense of pride and arrogance about my beliefs was the fact that I was around people who basically conditioned me to adopt that attitude.
Right. Well, basically to believe that you were right and everybody else is wrong. And that's what most cults do. They're not tolerant of other people's beliefs or thoughts.
Yes, and a big thing, too, to keep in mind is we were also conditioned to that there was a certain way to do things, and we had to do it this way, even if another way could produce the same results. And it's almost like certain things, like what rules we were supposed to follow. Like, we can't celebrate Christmas, can't celebrate Easter, can't go to other churches. It was very controlling what we were allowed to do, what kind of music we were allowed to listen to, what kind of movies we were allowed to watch.
And it's some of those things covertly separate you from friends and family and isolate you without you fully realizing that's what they're doing too.
Yeah, like almost you're conditioned with this mindset that you're not, that you can't connect with other people in your life. Besides, like, these are the only people in your life that you're allowed to connect to, this group, and everybody else you have this sense of paranoia about, that this sense of fear that they're somehow going to turn you away from God and they're going to send you to hell, and your blood is going to be on someone's hands. And also in regards to following like all these rules and stuff, it's almost like having an obsessive compulsive personality where there's a certain way to follow things. There's like, you can't deviate from that. You have to be solely focused on the rules.
Right.
And it's like you lose your focus on the overall purpose, kind of like legalism, which is the term for that. But there was the legalistic side, and there was also, like, with the grandiose view of ourselves, and our group was basically a narcissistic attitude that we had about ourselves that everybody else was
group less. Though there's a narcissistic attitude, and I think that's just overall how cults in general work, or people that are in abusive relationships. That's just how those people treat them overall. Um, Mel, I'm going to skip question 10 because he's already answered that. And
Right.
you want to go ahead and ask him number 11?
Sure, sure. What have you done, or what are you doing to work towards your recovery, Michael?
So I guess if I want to be technical, my recovery has rebooted since September of 2018 when I got out of the group twice, or the second time. What I've done during that time is I've gone to counseling on campus, and I'm also seeing a therapist off campus because I'm graduating now. A lot of it was reassessing myself and my values and what I want to get out of life. And when it comes to finding my own values, it helped me to have a stronger sense of my identity and my moral code. Because if I have a strong sense of what I value and who I am and what my morals are, then I'm less likely to be hoodwinked by anybody who comes along with just a little bit of charisma.
Right.
So that has helped me tremendously. Another thing that's helped me was researching cults, which I did before I got kicked out the first time even. But reading books about cults and reading stories of other people who found their way out of cults. One of the best books that I've read on the topic of cults is a book called Unfollowed by Megan Phelps Roper, who used to be part of the Westboro Baptist Church. And when I read that book, I saw so many similarities between my group and the Westboro Baptist Church. And reading her story has inspired me. And it's also reassured me that I'm making the right decision, that I'm not going to hell, that I'm not a terrible person, that I'm not arrogant for making the right decision based on what I'm seeing and based on what I know to be right, that is morally right, how to treat people, how to follow the golden rule, how to have good relationships with other people. Another thing that's helped me too is getting into a lot of hobbies. So it's been different things like rock climbing, which I did while I was working at the Rockwell on campus. I also did a little bit of riding my bike around campus, which is something that I still love to do, although I don't do it very often now. Going to the park and walking around and getting outside and exercising has also been something that I want to get more into as well. Spending more time with my family and my pets, and not just my parents and sister, but my extended family as well, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, has also helped me tremendously, because it's given me a stronger sense of this is who my real family is, not the people who pretended to love me and then cut me off when I wasn't useful to them, but my real family, people who love me for who I am.
Right.
Michael, for you being so young, I really commend you for how you've really recovered and come so far in this. I mean, it could have really destroyed, who you were and who you were meant to be. I really commend you for finding hobbies and researching and getting help. And I also commend you for really turning to your family and understanding that your family really does love you. Do you have any words of advice for other college students that might find themselves in this similar circumstance, or even in an abusive relationship?
Absolutely. The best advice I can give is, if you're already in, the sooner you get out, the better. And if you have any friends or family that you just can't talk out of a cult or an abusive relationship, don't hold that against yourself, because that's a decision they're making, although not a good decision, but it's something that you can't really fault yourself for. You have to learn to forgive yourself for certain decisions you made in your life, because your past doesn't define who you are. choices now in the present show us who you are. And
absolutely,
if you're not in an abusive relationship or a cult now, and you're a college student, I would say some of the best things you can do, and this doesn't just apply to college students, it applies to everybody, but having strong critical thinking skills and a strong, like, reading and digesting as many ideas and beliefs as possible and getting yourself familiar with what people believe, but also having an approach where, you know, I do have my own values and my own belief system, but I want to have an open mind and figure out where these other people are coming from, because, you know, if I'm wrong and they change my mind, then, like, there's nothing I can lose from that. I have everything to gain from that. Another thing too, besides having strong critical thinking skills and reading good books, is also having a strong sense of friendship with people, having an ability to manage relationships, especially if you have a if you're going through a mental health crisis, or you have a mood disorder or a personality disorder that doesn't allow you to, or that makes it harder to have good lasting relationships with people. You want to do everything you can to find those good relationships and also to maintain them. And a lot of that comes from choosing your friends wisely, not trusting everybody completely, because people do have ulterior motives, right, but recognizing that there are a lot of people who it would really pay off now and in the future to be good friends with, and people to help you get through life. So finding those relationships, and also having the ability to find wisdom wherever you can. It doesn't just have to come from one source. It can come from your grandparents. It can come from a good professor. It can come from your friends who are very open-minded or very philosophical. But finding wisdom wherever you can to help you live life better, doesn't matter where exactly it comes from. As long as it helps you live a better life, that is what matters.
It's awesome.
That's very good advice, Michael. And I'm just going to add, this is kind of something I didn't anticipate asking or adding in here, but I think that you probably, in hindsight, can see that there were some red flags early on in the beginning of you being in this group that you ignored. You didn't ignore. There was something internally that told you something probably wasn't quite right that you ignored. And I think that in saying that you need to seek out friendships and stuff, you also need to be really aware when you're doing that. If something in your gut is telling you something isn't right, it probably isn't. And you really need to start listening to that, especially young people who are out there experiencing the world, so to speak, for the first time, needing to learn to recognize red flags.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So, Michael, we thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. And you are such a smart, articulate, intelligent young man. And I know that you are destined for great things, wherever the future brings you. And hopefully sharing your story with us today will help contribute to your healing process. Thank you for taking the time and effort to speak with us. And to everyone out there watching, we do ask that you like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want to keep informed about upcoming episodes, you can join us on our Facebook page, Leaving the Lies and Speaking the Truth, where we do announce upcoming episodes. And also, if anyone out there is interested in sharing their own personal cult experience, please contact or private message either myself or Ariel/Autumn Fuentes, and you can contact us and we will definitely be in touch with you. And thank you, Autumn, for your co-hosting with me today. I appreciate you as always. And thank you again, both of you, and have a great night.
Thanks
for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.